Hello friends, welcome everyone on our today's talk on mucormycosis. Thank you for inviting me, a medical education group, on a talk of mucormycosis. As we know, we are seeing many cases of mucormycosis, the patient which are recovered from the COVID-19. This is currently a hot topic of interest in the town. Myself, Dr. Hemant Ashok Bhavnerkar. I am a Mumbai-based oral and maxillofacial surgeon. Let us learn what is a mucormycosis. As we know, it is a fungi infection caused by a molds belong to the order of Mucorales. There are many n number of fungus which cause a fungus infection to human body, but these are the specific species which are causing a mucormycosis, like Rhizopus, Rhizomucor, Cunningamella, Abdacea mucor, and the Syncephalus astra. This is actually very rare in young patients, but it is frequently seen in a old patient, which are mostly immunocompromised and the history of diabetes mellitus. This is actually a life-threatening condition. Whenever it happens, we have to treat it very fast, and we have to take action very fast. Whenever we think of mucormycosis, we have to always keep a second thought of aspergillosis. That is, many clinical features and the histological features are similar. But as we know, aspergillosis is clinically not very lethal, but is more frequent than mucormycosis. But mucormycosis is mostly a life-threatening, and it's very difficult to treat a fungal infection. Actually, how this infection cause in human body and the pathophysiology, let us learn. The route of infection is always from an inhalational route. When the spores are in the air always, but whenever we inhale this spore, they goes to our airway, the nostrils, the sinuses, and to the lungs. That's why the rhinomaxillary or rhinoorbital cases and the pulmonary cases of mucormycosis are more frequent. After the inoculation, the angioinvasion start. When the angioinvasion start of the mucus, this leads to the thrombosis. When the vessel thrombosis happens, this causing a infarction of the surrounding tissue, and the tissue necrosis happens. That's why the affected area, we are able to see a black colorish tissue, and we lead to the mucormycosis. This is a normal pathogenesis of mucormycosis. Whenever after inhalations of spores of mucormycosis, it invade in the tissue. In normal patient, what happens? The neutrophils, the main fighting cells, they engulf the mucor tissue, and they cause a phagocytosis of it. But the patient is on glucocorticoids or the history of diabetes. What happens? They both the condition, they are inhibited by these two condition, and they do not help to engulf the fungus tissue, and which leads to the in proliferation and the growth of fungus in the blood. One more thing we see, the whenever the such infection of the fungus in cause the hit the hemoglobin molecule, it lyses the cell of the hemoglobin, and the iron overload, which due to the insufficiency in the body, causes the its proliferation. So basically, the steroid effect, the immunocompromise effect, immunosuppression, this and the more sugar levels and more iron in the presence of body, which helps to proliferation of fungus infection, and which leads to dissemination to the different organs to the human body. This is a spread of mucormycosis in head and neck region. First, mostly it's affecting the maxillary sinuses. Whenever it's affect maxillary sinuses, patients complain of stuffy nose, the redness or the something different on the lower part of the eye or the sinus region or the cheek region of the same region. If the infection goes down, it involve the palate. The palate become yellowish and blackish color. After that, if it goes furthermore upward direction, it involve the ethmoid sinuses, maxillary sinuses, and the turbinates. Then its upward movements may be towards the involvement of eyeball, and the furthermore it may involve the cerebral area or the brain area. Now we are going to see what are the specific clinical features in subsequent slides. Basically, what is the fungal structure of mucor species? As we know, it has a very complex fungus is a very complex tissue which having spores at the end, and at the it has a hyphae. And whenever we see the fungus in histopathological examination, we see the crisscross or ribbon like hyphae in abundance. The what is the different generally we see, or the histopathologist see, for the aspergillosis and the mucormycosis is mucormycosis has a almost 90-degree hyphae inclination or the angle formation, and in aspergillosis it is a very less structure hyphae angle formation. On the histopathology, mostly the crisscross ribbon-like hyphae involvement in blood vessels are seen. This is a classic presentation of fungus or mucormycosis on the slides on H&E stain. What is the epidemiology of mucormycosis? Mucormycosis, it's mostly happen internationally only in 1% of cases with the very low immunity. Mucormycosis carries a high mortality rate, 50 to 80% in the cases. There is no racial factor predisposition or the sex predisposition. As we know, there are many types of mucormycosis, from rhinocerebral, rhinomaxillary, pulmonary, gastric, cutaneous, and disseminated. But the most common type is cerebral mucormycosis. As of now, only 7 to 10 cases we are seeing in whole Maharashtra per year, and in India only 70 cases per year we are observing of mucormycosis. But in now today's COVID era, only Maharashtra has reported more than 2000 cases in last 4 to 6 months. So we have to look more carefully for such cases, and we have to able to treat and diagnose such cases. What are the clinical forms of mucormycosis? As I described earlier, there is a pulmonary mucormycosis, gastrointestinal mucormycosis, a cutaneous mucormycosis, disseminated mucormycosis, rhinocerebral mucormycosis. Rhinocerebral mucormycosis another have 4 subtypes, like rhinonasal mucormycosis, rhinomaxillary, rhinoorbital, and rhinoorbitocerebral mucormycosis. As I shown in the image, the spread is always from the sinus to the nose, sinus to the maxilla, sinus to the orbit, and sinus to orbit, and orbit to a brain region. The most common is rhinomaxillary and rhinoorbital mucormycosis. What is the clinical presentation? The classical sign and symptoms of the mucormycosis are, whenever the patient come to us, they are mostly complaining of stuffy nose or the runny nose or the epistaxis of the nose. They always complain there is something they are feeling on one side of the face or the in sinuses. They are facing severe pain on same side. There is an infection or the swelling on the same side, redness over the same area, the sinus headache or the cluster headache. They are also complain always. There is a if there is a palatal environment or the maxillary environment, patient frequently tell us about the severe dental pain in and the gums also. There is a post discharge in gingival area also. If the eye is involved, then there is a blurring of vision, double vision. We are able to see the proptosis or the double vision or the loss of vision is also happen in the severe cases. The if the mucormycosis involve the palate, the discoloration or the yellow colorish patch or the necrosis bone, we are able to see the bone necrosis or black color issue is a classical sign of mucormycosis of the maxilla. The always such cases present to you in initial stage is nasal nasal complaints and the pain complaints. So we have to always on the toes to diagnose such a cases. As I described earlier, patient most commonly come to you for headache, runny nose, or stuffy nose, uh, different, not able to see or open the eye, or the eye problems, sudden eye problems in last few days. If the palate is involvement, you can able to see the yellow color or the necrosis part of the palatal bone or the losing of teeth on the same side and the black cutaneous tissue on the eye or periorbital region also. As I described earlier, the HNF spread is from maxillary sinus toward eye, toward brain region, or toward medial side on the involvement of ethmoid sinuses or the maxillary sinuses or the myitis or the opposite side of sinuses also. If goes to downward, then palatal involvement is also there. Then how we diagnose such cases? There are n number of blood investigations or the lab investigations techniques are there, but we have to diagnose it early, right? The best method to identify or the fast diagnostic method to identify fungus is on potassium hydroxide mount or KOH mount. For that we have to take a deep nasal swab and we have to send it to the specimen with in plain saline to the lab. Within 2 to 3 hours they give the results whether the presence of hyphae is there or no, not. If the presence of hyphae is there, we confirm there is a fungus infection is there. But KOH mount is only able to tell there is a presence of fungus infection. But what kind of fungus, whether it is aspergillosis, whether it is a mucormycosis or any other different fungus infection, how we are going to diagnose? For that we have to do either fungal culture test or a biopsy. Now we prefer intraoral biopsy and the fungal culture both to do in such a cases to identify exact nature and the exact type of the fungus which are causing a pathology to the our patient. After that we can also have an option of frozen section biopsies, squamous cytology, or the in advanced PCR cottage gene identification test. But for early diagnosis we have to prompt on KOH mount test and we have to move for the biopsy. As and when we noticed the patient is having a fungus infection, we have to start immediately treatment. On radiology, Generally, the in initial stages there is a no bony involvement or no bony erosion seen on OPG or PNS views, but in advanced stages we are able to see a bone erosion like osteomyelitis on the OPG or the PNS view. But in early cases we are not able to diagnose on 2D radiology. For that we have to rely on more advanced radiology like CECT, contrast enhanced CT scan, or the MRI. For internal structure, the for the maxillary sinus we have to do a endoscopic diagnostic endoscopy also. That is also very helpful for diagnosis of mucormycosis. On contrast enhanced CT scan we are mostly able to see a erosion and thinning of the involved bone and its progression also. And also we can able to see a 3D reconstruction of the CT scan images. On the image number B, we are able to see the involvement of the eyeball and the optic nerve also. Please note the red mark on the B image. On the C image and on the D image, we are able to see a erosion of the bone because of the mucormycosis. Uh, the image number E showing a 3D reconstruction of the severe maxillo-orbital mucormycosis. This is as I said earlier, the endoscopy, diagnostic endoscopy is also helpful for identification of sinus mucormycosis, ethmoid sinuses mucormycosis, or turbinate mucormycosis. In these images we are able to see a black color and yellow color necrotic tissue on the endoscope. Let us see the why currently the mucormycosis is more frequent in COVID patient. As we know, COVID is a very severe disease. From last 1.5 year we are learning this disease day by day. As we see, these patients are mostly immunocompromised, or immunosuppression is happen in such cases. Why such thing happens? Because of steroids and other drugs. And because of steroid there is an increase in sugar levels also. The diabetes and uncontrolled diabetes mellitus and the patient with diabetic ketoacidosis, such cases are more prone for fungi infection or the mucormycosis infection, as we learned in previous slides of pathogenesis. In such a cases, mostly COVID patients, the neutropenia happens, the serum ferritin level is increases, the CD4 and CD8 count is also increases. The because of such things, these are the favorable for fungi or the fungus to proliferate in the body and do their damage, do the necrosis of the involvement of the bone. As we see, the because of the COVID infection, this is COVID virus is more causing more thrombotic events and it's more neutropenic. These both things are favorable for fungi to proliferate. Also, COVID viruses is direct attack on the hemoglobin, the beta 2 cell and the beta 2 side of the hemoglobin. Because of this beta 2 engagement of the COVID viruses, its breakdown and the serum ferritin is released, and the serum ferritin is actually a black brownish color molecule which release in body. And basically this fungi is having more affinity to a ferritin, and actually this ferritin is like a food for this fungi. And as we know, whenever there is a more food available, for fungi it's grow fast. One more thing is noted: the patient who was already having a voriconazole therapy in past, they are more prone for fungi infection. Why so? As we know, voriconazole is also antifungal drug, right? But voriconazole has some property which modulate the activity of some fungus, and which help some fungus to grow faster also. So some species from the mucoral mold, they are causing such thing and prone for mucormycosis. So these are the mostly risk factor in COVID patients. Because of these, they are having a more mucormycosis like signs and symptoms. As we know ki whenever the fungi is enter in body, the angio invasion happens, the phagocytosis of polymorph neutrophils happens. Because of steroid and diabetes mellitus, these both things suppresses the polymorph neutrophils activity. And whenever this activity hampers the angio invasion, thrombosis happens. Because of this, the tissue infection and the necrosis happen, and which lead to the mucormycosis. This is a one more thing. As I said earlier, the COVID virus is also attached to the beta 2 chain of the hemoglobin, which increase the serum ferritin level in the blood, which is a favorable to growth of mucor. And that's why also in the increased serum ferritin level cases, they are also more prone for the mucormycosis. uh, as we are a maxillofacial surgeon, a dental surgeon, or from the ENT background, we are mostly more interested to diagnose and treat a rhinomaxillary cases. Let us learn what are the rhinomaxillary mucormycosis, and what's its presentation and how we are going to treat it, right? Mostly such cases comes to us. In last 1 month, I have seen 2 3 cases of rhinomaxillary mucormycosis. One is very severe case, one was a case just initiated. We started antifungal amphotericin B immediately. And one was just fear to the patient, that she has nothing, just she has complaining or black dot on her gums, but she has no sign and symptoms of mucormycosis. Whenever such cases come to us, rhinomaxillary cases, they are typically complain of white or yellow or black patch on the palate, on surrounding tooth, and the complaint of the pus discharge from the gums also. Many times that area are mobile with presence with the mobile teeth also. As we know, the treatment of mucormycosis is always a team effort, not one specialty involved in it. There is a we required to treat such cases are mostly oral maxillofacial surgeon, a dental surgeon, a ENT surgeon, anesthesiologist, ophthalmologist, a neurosurgeon, infection specialist, or the MD medicine person. So for treatment of mucormycosis of head, neck, face, we have to always have a good team in hand to give a good results. Because one specialty is not enough, as the head and neck area is involved, and is many times the rhinomaxillary, rhinoorbital cases go to the cerebral part, involvement of brain also. And in that case, we have to require a neurosurgeon also. I have seen 2 3 advanced cases in my colleagues OPD, that they are having cases when the patient was in ICU, and The on the MRI they are able to see involvement of cerebral arteries and infarction to the cerebral arteries and veins. So because of neurosurgeon they are able to save the stroke to that patients. Then ophthalmologists, then maxillofacial surgeons are also play an important role in treatment of such cases. Let us move to the treatment part. There are various things we have to look for. Early diagnosis is the key in such cases to reduce the mortality rate. Then early antifungal agents we have to start in such a cases. Treatment of underlying risk factor is very important, like we have to control the diabetes and we have to reduce the steroid doses if the patient is having on a high dose of steroids. Surgical debridement is at most important because without the surgical treatment there is a we cannot say that the treatment is already started. The adjunctive treatments modalities are also available. We will see in next slides what we can have options. As I said, early diagnosis is a key to prevent a severe condition. Case history and the clinical sign and symptoms we have to always look after. In mild initial cases, we have to, whenever we think it's suspicious mucormycosis cases, we have to immediately do KOH mount test or the biopsy test to diagnose before it gets advanced. We have to always ask patient regarding the steroid treatment history, or the patient was having a serious COVID in past, or he or she recovered from the COVID in ICU or in general ward. Whether he has any medical conditions like diabetes mellitus and all. The alarming sign are we have to look for always, like yellow or black spot on maxilla, palate, brown or red discharge from the nose, pain around eye and sinus area, sudden loosening of teeth, or the pus discharge from the gums. These are the signs we have to keep on think that we are going to see the mucormycosis cases. Whenever we see this alarming sign, we have to immediately plan for the KOH mount, biopsy or tissue swabber and the culture test, and we have to go for radiology as I have seen earlier, like contrast enhanced CT scan or the MRI also. What the blood investigations are helpful, or the we have to do again in such a cases. We have to always advise CBC. We have to look for neutropenia. We have seen its role in pathophysiology. It slides the leukopenia, blood sugar levels. High blood sugar levels are more prone for such cases. HbA1c, serum ferritin, CD4 and CD8 counts are very important in such a cases. Early antifungal agents are always helpful to advance the fungal infection toward the orbit or the brain. So we can save the patients. Actually, liposomal amphotericin B is the first line of drug, which is a drug of choice in mucormycosis. All the other antifungal drugs are either just supplementary or just having a secondary role to play, but the amphotericin B is a drug of choice in mucormycosis. Fluconazole or voriconazole has no reliable activity. Itraconazole is only helpful in some species only. Posaconazole, isovconazole can also be used as a first line therapy after the amphotericin B drug. Then liposomal amphotericin B we can give with the drug doses of 5 mg per kg per day to the 100 to 10 to 10 mg per kg per day. Like for a 60 kg weight patient, we can give up to a 300 milligram per day amphotericin B deoxycholate, which is a old amphotericin B, but which is having a low cost, but it is very nephrotoxic. The drug dosage is 1 to 1.5 mg per kg per day. The amphotericin B lipid complex also can be used 5 mg per kg per day, but this is also nephrotoxic and having a less bioavailability and the half life of the drug. Then the posaconazole also we can use, as we are seen earlier. The treatment duration of the antifungal agent is highly specific to the it varies to the patient to patient. We have to give the antifungal drug to the patient up to the patient's biopsy come to the negative, and the culture also come to negative. Let us learn the surgical part of the cases. The the aim of the removal of necrotic tissue is we have to increase the penetration of antifungal drug, so we can actually stop its progress toward the vital structure of the head and neck region. So basically, unless and until we start the debridement or surgical part, we can say we are not started of treatment for mucormycosis. So the surgical debridement is very important. In this case, maxilla is involved. We are taken a full thickness mucoperiosteal flap of degloving side of maxilla on the left and right side, and we have done a maxillectomy in these cases. The what are the surgical options for the different cases? As I said earlier, the aim is always removal of fungi and necrotic tissue, so we can reach the uh, antifungal drug to the sound tissue, so the fungi cannot spread further. The treatment, as I said earlier, treatment cannot start without surgical treatment, debridement. Surgery is only can achieve this. The different surgical options are: for maxilla, we have to go intraorally. We have to do a extraction of the involvement of teeth. The necrotic tissue scraping and debridement we have to do. In some cases, we have to go for hemimaxillectomy or total maxillectomy also. If the nasal involvement is there, nasal debridement, we can do a direct nasal debridement, or the face surgery or the endoscopic surgery we can plan. Maxillary sinus, we can do direct Caldwell surgery or the endoscopic debridement we can plan. If involvement is in ethmoid and sphenoidal sinus, the only face surgery is helpful in such cases. If the involvement of eye or orbit is there, we have to think for eye excenteration, or the periorbital amphotericin B therapy is also there. What is eye excenteration? The eye excenteration is a complete removal of the content of eye and eyeball or in orbit region. This Then if the involvement is cranial involvement is there, then we have to save the patient from the stroke or infarction, and prevent the patient from cavernous sinus thrombosis. Then what are the treatment of underlying risk factor control? So we have to, as I said earlier, we have to manage the diabetes mellitus. We have to control the steroid doses if the patient is recovered from the COVID post COVID area. Then immunocompromised status also we need to think how to improve it. Other diseases also we need to control it. So overall patients immunity we have to improve, so the patient's body is also helping to fight the mucor infection. For this, we have to always take help from the medical personnel or the endocrinologist or the infectious disease specialist doctor. Local debridement are always key, as I said earlier. What are the adjunctive treatment we can opt for such a patients are like hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I have not seen such cases, but there is a literature backup, or the senior surgeons are doing taking help of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and they are getting good result of it, as we treat the osteomyelitis cases, as it was helpful in osteomyelitis. It's same as it will helpful 100% oxygen for mucormycosis cases also. Then cytokine therapy in hemoglobin malignancy and the iron chelators are also helpful, are in such a cases. Let us see few cases. This is a total maxilla involvement case. In such cases, total or 3-4 maxillectomy is done. Then the area is reconstructed with the muscle. Uh, then the in this case we have to involvement of eyes there, the nasal area is there, so the face surgery is there to help us, or the endoscopic debridement, functional endoscopic sinus surgery we have to plan in such a cases. As I said, the endoscopy is helpful for diagnostic purpose also, or the surgical debridement purpose also. The functional endoscopic sinus surgery. We are done with the surgery then, but what are the options for rehab in such cases? In maxilla or the hemimaxillectomy, total maxillectomy, eye excenteration, what are the options? These are the options. For total maxillectomy, we can rehab the patient's jaw with the 4 zygomatic implants, and with zygomatic implants we can give total denture to the patient. Then for hemi maxillectomy cases, obturators are the helpfuls. Then for eye excenteration cases, ophthalmic prostheses are helpful. These are the few options. Let us summarize everything. Whenever we suspect the mucormycosis is the case, we have to immediately start for the antifungal treatment. As I said earlier, amphotericin B lipolyzed is a drug of choice. Then the disease staging we have to always do. Disease staging is generally done on the radiographic diagnosis only. As I said earlier, surgery we cannot avoid. Without surgery we cannot even start the treatment. We have to immediately debride the tissue, we have to remove the mucus. As I said earlier, the surgery is the key in such a cases, and the reversal of risk factor I have discussed is earlier. The after the treatment given, we have to continuously assess the treatment response, whether the patient is responding to the treatment or not responding to treatment. Like in some cases the mucor we have debride, but we have to continuously look from the endoscopy that the patient is developing the mucor again. We have to take a KOH mount again, and we have to send a sample for culture for every week. So we have to see the negative report. Sometimes the patient is not responding well to amphotericin B, so because it's very nephrotoxic, so we have to think for other drugs are also. So we have to assess the treatment response also. So this is a summary of the whole the treatment plan of the mucormycosis. At the end we have to see what we can do to prevent the mucormycosis in post COVID cases. I purposely keep this slide at the end because as such in COVID patient we have very few things to prevent this infection, like nasal lavage. We can do the nasal lavage with the help of saline or betadine, 1% betadine solution, with the help of syringe or the neti pot. We can see in the images. Oral rinse are always helpful. After the post-COVID cases, we always tell COVID recovered patient to do a regular dental max pass ENT visit to see the whether the patient is developing any kind of bone necrosis or any symptoms on patient's mouth or sinus region. So it's very important to prevent a severe mucormycosis. We do not take any antifungal prophylaxis because antifungal drugs are having a very small half life, so it's not stay in blood for long term, and it is also advised by ICMR also that the prophylactic antifungal treatment is not advisable. So basically for prevention, oral rinse and nasal lavage are the only two options we have. Then at the end we can conclude this today's topic that on mucormycosis is the early diagnosis is a key to reduce the mortality rate in mucormycosis. Antifungal treatment should start within 6 days to reduce mortality. You cannot avoid surgery in such a cases. Treat as rapidly spreading malignancy. So we have to always go for a wide excision. We cannot think for conservative surgery in mucormycosis. As I said earlier, lyophilized amphotericin B is a drug of choice. For it, diabetes mellitus control is very important, and at the end we have aim to save the life of the patient. So ultimately we have to save our patient, right? So these are my references. I hope everyone has gain some key points, some knowledge on my today's lecture. Hope you do a good justice to your patients by early diagnosis and planning a good treatment for mucormycosis. Thank you for today's talk. We will see again on my subsequent lectures. I have also started my YouTube channel video also by naming of Oral Surgery and Beyond. So you can able to watch my many videos on my this YouTube channel. So please subscribe the Oral Surgery and Beyond YouTube channel. Thank you from my side.